We're going to talk about constraints. Every element has constraints, and they're how the element tells its parent how it needs to fit in. So as we saw in the last video, every element has a layout, and the layout is how it organizes the children elements. With the constraints of the children element, that's how we specify how it's placed in the layout, and this will make sense when we do our example, which we'll do right now. So let's first set up a space and then do each of these. So this should be easily understood from previous videos. So this is pretty basic, that we have a background and size, and then for our layout, we're going to use BlFrameLayout, and so we'll just go ahead and use it, and I'll explain it as we go. So I'm just going to leave this as it is right now, and we'll come back to it and add constraints later. So we're adding our child to the parent. So let's select all and go and see what we have. So there's nothing exciting about this. It's exactly what we expect to happen, where the child element is just in the upper left-hand corner. So let's do something with constraints, and to do that we do constraints do. So what we give constraints do is a block, and we're going to need to pass an argument in, and this argument will be the constraints of our BL element. So we do something with constraints, and what we're going to do is C frame horizontal align right. So let's do this. So now you can see our child element is aligned to the left-hand side of our parent element, and when we resize the parent element, it updates so it sticks to that alignment. So as I type the next code, I'm going to say it as I type. I'm going to say how I want it to read. So for our constraints for the frame layout in the vertical direction, we want to align, let's say center. So you can imagine what this is going to do. Now our element is going to be both aligned to the right horizontally and to the center vertically. And you can see as we resize it, it repositions. So something that I want to point out is that these are corresponding, the C frame corresponds with our frame layout. So if we run it with, if we run it without the frame layout, then it's not going to act like we want it to. So now it's up in the upper left-hand corner again. So there always needs to be this correspondence. So here are the options that we have specifically for the frame layout, at least some of them. We have frame, C-frame, vertical align top, vertical align center, align bottom, and we can mix and match these however we want. So how do we find these options? First, we're going to look at BlFrameLayout. And so we want to see what constraints we have for the frame layout. And so we're going to look on the class side and look at constraints. And so we get BlFrameLayout constraints, which is right here. And so that gives us the this is what we get from the C frame. And so if we give the message horizontal to that, we need to look and see where we find that. And we're going to go back to the instance side. We have default horizontal and default vertical, but we don't have horizontal. And that's because it's in the superclass. And so I pulled this down. So now we have access and clicked on this. So now we have access to the superclass methods as well. And so we have horizontal here. And you can see that it just returns horizontal. So in our initialization, it's setting up the horizontal in some way. So let's look at initialize. So it's giving us the default horizontal is set to the default horizontal, which is BlFrameLayout constraints horizontal. So I'm clicking on that. It's up here in the same class package. So we have horizontal, and then now in our instance side we have align center, align left, right, and we have alignment and weight. And I'll talk about weight in the next video. So that was kind of confusing there. To look at it in a different example, let's just click on linear, and we see that we have the linear layout here, which would be in the parent, and then we have the linear layout constraints here, which we would set up in our constraints do of the child. And we have constraints horizontal and vertical, so we have for this one we have align center, left, right, alignment, and you'll notice we don't have any weight here. And let's look at grid. In horizontal we have align center, align left. Yeah, so that's kind of basically how you can start to navigate around and look at these. But I would just suggest looking at examples first. So the main thing to take away from this video is that all elements have layouts, which we went over in the last video. And then the elements have constraints as well, and the constraints specify how it fits in the parent element.